Once it was called dementia praecox, which meant early madness. But later it was given the name schizophrenia from the Greek words schizon, split, and phren, mind. And it is sometimes described as split personality. But schizophrenia actually covers a whole class of mental disorders with certain common symptoms. Generally, schizophrenics tend to withdraw from the real world into a fantastic, though often logical, world of their own. Generally, schizophrenics do not lose their minds, and their intelligence, as measured by IQ tests, does not deteriorate. But their intelligence seems divorced from other phases of their personality. Officially, schizophrenia is defined as a group of psychotic reactions characterized by fundamental disturbances in reality relationships and concept formations, with affective behavior and intellectual disturbances in various degrees and mixtures. It is difficult to understand, difficult to diagnose, and difficult to treat. It puts more people into mental hospitals than any other disease of the mind. One of the most remarkable advances in the concept of treating schizophrenia is taking place here in this quiet Palo Alto, California residential area. This is home base for the Mental Research Institute. And in this converted dwelling, a team of psychiatrists and therapists have been instrumental in formulating and devising two simple but revolutionary concepts. First, that mental disorder in one family member is frequently associated with some kind of emotional upset in the entire family group. And second, if you want to treat it, you have to work with the family as a unit. Director of the Mental Research Institute is Dr. Don D. Jackson, a psychiatrist widely recognized for his work in the field of schizophrenia, particularly for his many contributions to the so-called family theory.
The family is a natural unit in our culture. It is a more natural unit than the one that used to be considered natural in psychiatry, namely the therapist and the patient. The patient and therapist might see each other 2 or 3 times a week, but they didn't live together, at least not most of them. The family does live together. They're constantly in a closed environment where they're exchanging behaviors and having a great impact on each other. Our feeling is that it's difficult to judge an individual unless you can really see him in the family context.
And so the family has come under close study by scientists at the Mental Research Institute. Many of their studies have to do with healthy families like these, in order to find out more about the patterns of behavior that go on in a normal family environment. Of particular interest is the way in which family members communicate, because so much of what we know about each other comes from our manner of communicating. By communication, Dr. Jackson and his colleagues mean any kind of exchange of behavior between two individuals, verbal or nonverbal. It is important to clearly state that there's nothing essentially or inherently abnormal in family arguments, family disagreements, jealousies, squabbles, disappointments, and so many of the other family problems that characterize any group that lives together closely in a closed environment. The freer families are to recognize and accept each other as individuals, then the freer they will be in their communications with each other. But it follows that the reverse is true also. The more a family has difficulty in recognizing and accepting each other as individuals, the more likely they are to experience behavior difficulties. Case in point, Mr. Dick Morris, who has been hospitalized for what the doctors called paranoid schizophrenia. He had isolated himself from other people and had auditory hallucinations in which strange voices gave him contradictory commands. His psychiatrist visits him regularly for therapeutic sessions, but Dick isn't responding to treatment as rapidly as he might, and today the patient's parents have come to the hospital to see him. And so, in the waiting room, Mr. and Mrs. Morris anxiously await this confrontation with their son. Mr. John Morris, 55 years old, small businessman. No self-confessed problems other than the usual ones. Mrs. John Morris, in her opinion, a good wife and a good mother, and she just can't understand why her son Dick got sick.
When are you going to let me out of here?
Is that what they're saying?
Dick can't understand his parents either, but they're both very much on his mind today, even though he doesn't know yet that they're just outside the door.
Talk to you. You know that.
Yeah.
When they tell you they're going to let me out of here?
Well, I understand that you're doing things to keep you from getting out of the hospital.
I'm just trying to get out. They're keeping
What
me
about
in.
slugging the nurse?
I knew they'd tell you about that.
Well, it's my business to know. How did that happen?
She was getting me all mixed up. She told me to go to the day room and make my bed at the same time. So I got her, I don't know, I just gave her a shove.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to hurt her.
It was a pretty hard shove.
Well, she was getting me all mixed up and confused, just like they do.
You mean the they that didn't show up last week?
Yeah, you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, you're talking about your parents.
Yeah.
Did they ever tell you why they didn't come?
No, they wouldn't tell me.
Did you ask them?
No, what's the use of asking them?
But isn't that part of your problem, that the two of them don't know how you're feeling and vice versa?
It may be, but I can't get any straight answers from them.
I don't think you try very hard either.
Well, maybe I don't.
What about asking them? They're outside now. I didn't mean to surprise you, but they just came to the hospital very unexpectedly. So I
They're here?
thought as long as they're here, well, we'll have a meeting.
They're here now?
Yeah.
Well, I'll ask them now.
You sure?
Yeah.
I don't think you can do it, but I think it's worth trying. I think when you see them in the flesh, you'll back off.
No, I'll ask them.
You really will?
Yeah.
Well, why not? Let's try it.
All right.
Come on.
The patient is not anxious to meet with his parents in spite of his expressed willingness to do so. But it is very important for them and for the psychiatrist that the family be brought together in order to see how they interact, how they communicate. Because so much can be learned from a careful study of the ways in which families interact, sessions like these are carefully observed by trained psychiatric personnel from behind two-way mirrors. And because it will be important for later examination and evaluation, a tape recording is made of everything that is said. This, of course, is always done with the family's permission.
How about you? Yeah.
The Morris family is about to have its first session together. It is likely to be especially productive because Mrs. Morris is hurt and outraged over something that has just happened. She won't have to be persuaded to express it. It's on the tip of her tongue, and she can hardly wait to blurt it out. The issue? A Mother's Day greeting card. It cost Dick 50 cents. It cost his mother tears and anguish. Listen carefully to the way the Morrises talk, and watch carefully the way in which they talk.
Did you see this card?
Why, it's a Mother's Day card.
Yes, but look at it. Read
Well,
it.
it says, to someone who has been just like a mother to me. Dick.
Yes, but read it. It doesn't even know his own mother. I thought it was...
Oh, to someone who has been just like a mother to me.
That's
it. Did you mean to send it?
Yeah, I meant to send a card to Mom's mother for Mother's Day.
That's the card you sent to your mother for Mother's Day.
Yeah, I meant to send that card. You know, I waited all last Thursday. They never showed up at the hospital for a visit. And I stood here and I waited and... Yeah, I meant to send that card. I meant to sting you a little bit.
That's all right, too.
If it'll help Dick to hurt your mother, I'm sure that she's willing to help you.
Well, I didn't mean to send that card. I just saw the card there and I picked it out. That's why I sent it.
You said, huh?
Well, yeah, I sent it, but I didn't mean to send that card.
No, I'm getting confused.
Well, so am I, Doctor.
There's a lack of clarity in what these people say. And around this table, as well as in the Morris home, nothing is what it seems to be.
I didn't get any word from you.
The Morrises make complicated problems out of things that should be simple. And their discussions and arguments don't follow as an argument would in a normal family. Confusion and vagueness prevail. Within such a messed up word world, it's understandable that the patient doesn't know what's really expected of him, doesn't know how to act. Imagine that this kind of communication has been a part of Dick's life for some 30 years, and you begin to understand why it is that he's here in the hospital today. For example, When he's forced to take some position on the overly discussed matter of the Mother's Day card, he takes refuge in a bizarre and impossible accusation.
Somebody wanted me to send the card and upset Mom.
What do you mean, somebody? I don't understand what you mean.
Maybe the communists are doing it. They do things like that all the time. They'll plant things in the store and make people take them. That's what must have happened.
That sounds pretty crazy, Doctor.
Well, I'm afraid it is, but there's something missing here that we've got to get clear on.
It is important to counsel with parents like the Morrises to find out more about them, to find out more about what they think is wrong and why. It is characteristic of people like the Morrises to deny that anything is wrong.
The reason that I asked you in is that I have the feeling that Dick is very sensitive to your moods, that he reflects your moods just as a photographic plate will reflect light from any source. And perhaps there's something that goes on in your relationship that he responds to.
We never quarrel.
No, we don't quarrel, Doctor.
I've had the feeling that people who are really close together are free to disagree. Now, perhaps you've had disagreements, and maybe you've forgotten them.
Well, we have had some minor ones now and then.
Of course, there was a time that your mother was with us, dear.
Well, that was a long time ago.
Yes, Dick was a little boy then.
It is fairly obvious that Mr. and Mrs. Morris have personal problems that go much deeper into their lives than they are willing to admit. And it is very obvious that they have some fairly profound problems in communicating clearly with each other, as well as with Dick. To the psychiatrist, this suggests a pattern of behavior within the family that could well be conducive to mental illness. Further interviewing brought out that Mr. Morris would habitually needle his son, while Mrs. Morris would comfort him by urging him to pay no attention to his father. Both of the Morrises habitually placed Dick in what psychiatrists call the double bind, in which the boy was exposed to an impossible situation and then made to understand that his decision would have serious consequences. It is no wonder, then, that the scientists at the Mental Research Institute are interested in the phenomena of human communication within the family, the way the individual members affect each other by the character of their behavior. But in the field of psychotherapy, as in all other branches of science, knowledge advances through research. And so it's not surprising that the staff at the Mental Research Institute is constantly investigating and analyzing communications in the family context. For comparative purposes, both normal and disturbed families are studied with the objective of defining and understanding what types of communications and relationships are conducive to mental health or to mental disorders. This healthy family, for instance, is participating in one of the group's current projects.
Along with it, and I'm going to read you these cards now.
An interviewer from the Mental Research Institute has made an appointment in this home in order to ask some carefully prepared questions designed to stimulate communications within the family.
Tell me whom this most applies to. This card says this person's worst fault is that he or she is too good.
Well, if weakness suggests that my wife's behavior with the children is that she's not demanding enough, I would suggest that possibly she is weak in that regard. I don't find her to be demanding enough of the children.
How are you aware of this down at the plant? It just, you have a little
Well, I
EMP
suppose
going?
all I know is what is going on when I'm here.
I'd like you to discuss the question, what are the main good points or strong points in this family?
Oh, they're so
Well, I
nice.
think we're a most determined family. We seem to work together toward a common goal. The children, as well as my wife, we seem to have at least the opportunity in common to promote what I think is a honest American family life.
And we support each other, too. If one of us really gets in trouble, then the others seem to always be there to help out. We just don't drop the other guy when he's in trouble.
What do you think, dear?
Oh, we're keen and clean, you know, marvelous. No, I'm kidding. We're, I think, essentially a pretty good group.
All right, that's fine. Now for this next part.
All of the conversations in interviews like this are recorded in order that they may be studied later. It is important for the interviewer to be sensitive to the nuances and subtleties of this kind of interaction because the way in which things are said is just as important as who says them. The manner in which healthy families like this communicate together provides data from which norms can be developed, guidelines for health, patterns for sanity.
These cards.
Having put the family at ease and asked some initial questions, the interviewer will ask them to plan something that they'd like to do together. How they'll go about reaching a decision and who will participate in making a decision will give particular insight into the relationships and interactions of the family group. Observations with disturbed families indicate that they have considerably more difficulty in coming to a conclusion about what they'd like to do together than healthy families like this.
Well, dear, I hope that we can do something this summer together while I have 2 weeks vacation from the plant.
I think that's reasonable to request. But, Great White Father, what can we do that the four of us would like, really?
Well, very honestly, I've been hoping that we could get away from the immediate area together. How do you feel about that?
No, I'd rather go skiing, but you can't do that too well in the summertime.
Well, maybe Daddy could shift his vacation, but we don't necessarily have to take a
I
trip.
think I might be
We
able
might
to.
refinish a table or something.
Oh, fun.
Well, I just threw that
Well,
in
there
for
we
what it's
are,
worth.
staying at home again, dear. Now,
Yeah.
you know what happens when the telephone rings and I'm back in the plant in the middle of my vacation.
I also know what happens when we try to zero in on a resort. I don't want to cook. I don't
You
like
want to
to
rest.
Yes, you bet I do.
Well, what about a ski trip? Would that be appealing to you?
Yes, that'd be fun.
Continuing research into the patterns of family communication is a priority item at the Mental Research Institute. Jay Haley is the director of an experimental project that has tested some 300 families in a variety of situations designed to supply data about the manner in which they communicate with each other. Of particular interest is this experimental project in which a volunteer family is brought together and asked to respond to a common stimulus. They are told to make up a story about a picture, any story at all. This kind of spontaneous give and take provides the observer with an excellent opportunity to find out who dominates the conversation, how they dominate it, the frequency with which each member makes a contribution, and the clarity of expression that is utilized.
And when you're through, I would like one of you to tell me the story that you've decided upon.
That looks like Uncle Bob.
Dad can't see. Put it on the table.
Well, I can't see, dear.
Oh,
Put it
well.
down on the table.
Oh, it looks like he's really mad at her, isn't he?
Yeah, but why? What do you think happened beforehand?
I think he's upset because dinner isn't ready.
Yeah, I think it's something unimportant that's happening.
Well, why would they be so belligerent to one another if it was something unimportant? Why?
Well, they're not necessarily that.
He might have a headache.
Oh,
like
well,
Dad
look at that
sometimes.
terrible look on her face. And his mouth is open and he's shouting.
And she looks
Well,
like
what is
she's
he? What is he
worried.
shouting? What is he shouting?
He's probably saying, shut your big mouth.
Well, I think she looks like she doesn't really care too much about what's going on there.
Oh no, she's
Well-
scared.
She doesn't know what to do when your mother and father are fighting. What do you do?
Maybe the best thing
Well,
to do
what
is to go out of the room.
Tests such as these on both normal and disturbed families, and families from different cultural backgrounds, are providing new knowledge about how families communicate and new hypotheses about how their patterns of communication may affect their mental health.
Occurred to me that may sound a little bit nutty, but I think I ought to ask it anyway.
The payoff, of course, comes in preventing mental illness like schizophrenia and of treating it successfully. In the case of the Morris family, diagnostic sessions have provided the psychiatrist with abundant data on which to base some possible therapeutic approaches. Psychiatric techniques differ, of course, according to the needs of the particular patient. But at this point in time, the psychiatrist feels that the Morrises may be capable of some desirable change if their behavior and communications patterns are described and evaluated.
It occurred to me, what would happen to the two of you if Dick should get well?
Well, that does seem like a strange question, Doctor.
Well, of course we'd be terribly happy.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, but supposing I got well enough to get married, and I want to get married, and have a home of my own, and a family of my own.
If you married the right kind of girl, I guess that would be fine.
You know, somebody who would sort of, well, help look after him.
I've gone out with girls before, and they've always found something wrong with every one of them. They wouldn't take good care of me or something else like that.
That's all we will ever know about the Morris family, with its problems of human interaction, its climate of confusion. Because there really isn't a Morris family at all. And in a moment, we will find out why.
I think I can understand how he feels, you know, the pressure the two of you put on him. Well, I think we've done enough. Why don't we take a break and get some coffee?
That's a good idea.
Well,
What did you think of it? Did you really feel some pressure in the last bit of that?
I felt terrific pressure in the Mother's Day card bit. I had very intense reaction. I got increasingly confused as to who to talk to. Charlotte, you never looked at...
The family whose behavior we have been describing and watching is not a real family at all. They are, each of them, professionals in the field of mental health and human behavior and research associates here at the Mental Research Institute. Dr. Richard Fish, psychiatrist. Mrs. Charlotte Kirsch, cultural anthropologist. And Mr. John Weekland, cultural anthropologist. The reason for the pretense was to give them additional understanding of the influences which affect family members in conditions of stress, confusion, and mental illness. By such role-playing, their own diagnostic and therapeutic skills are sharpened. And so, after the performance, the critique.
Each person sees reality in a different way. For the schizophrenic, this is very difficult because the way he sees reality is constantly being defined for him as crazy and invalid.
Even when he's right.
Even when he's right and when it fits, yeah.
Well, let's break it up.
That's good. Okay, fine.
fine.
Research into the causes and treatment of schizophrenia continues. There is much yet to learn, but Dr. Jackson and his colleagues are very encouraged by the enormous advances that have been made by considering the schizophrenic as part of a family system. Studies at the Mental Research Institute are paving the way.